Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Allow me to add my voice to this important debate, the debate on the Child Justice Act, and of course, subject to some of what the experts, like the member for, certainly what the member for Vieux-Fort South has said and other persons have said. Mr. Speaker, what I find, and even before I speak to this, Mr. Speaker, I just want to cite that there have been a few murders, gun violence incidents in my constituency, Castries Southeast, and today I really want to reflect on the mothers who are still mourning the loss of their sons who have departed through gun violence, and that is persons like Petra, Katia from Mark, Christine in Cronglands, as well as Miss Christine also from Badney. Those four mothers, one has actually put her son to sleep at the funeral, and the other three has not done so. But Mr. Speaker, every person who have experienced a loss in this country, I know it's very painful. I know too well. And there are times, situations like what happened to Alana, it brings everybody into a state of speechlessness. Sometimes you just do not know what to say. Quite human for us to feel that way, even parliamentarians. And for the member of the opposition to relate to such an incident in this manner, I ask, where is the humanity in him for him not to even understand silence in a time like this? And therefore, the women in this cabinet, they were all taken aback, like every good St. Lucian, as to what has happened. But Mr. Speaker, as time would have it, and time usually reflects and reveals quite a bit, I recall being in opposition, being an opposition senator, when the member for Vieux-Fort South sat on the other side of this chamber and made contributions to the leader and the parliament. And I recall sitting there and hearing, "You've lost your right to speak." I heard that statement, "You've lost your right to speak." Once I remember, Mr. Speaker, a simple correction to a bill where you were moving day is to day are, they would not accept it and pass the bill with grammatical errors just to reject every contribution from this side, from us. And when I listened this morning to the member for Vieux-Fort South trying to make use of the contribution for the member for Vieux-Fort South, I ask myself if he has come to realize the importance. That importance, I think it is good for the House, that even if you are sitting on this side and someone is making a contribution, you could join. But this Prime Minister, the members on this side have no arrogance associated with them.
Member for Miku South. Can you keep it down, please?
Yes, I would like to be listening in silence. The members on this side, we are not laced with any form of arrogance to prevent us from accepting genuine contribution that will only be for the betterment of the people of St. Lucia. And we will never, ever make a statement to say that because you were defeated 15-2, that you almost lost your seat, that you have lost your right to speak. We will never make such a statement. But it's unfortunate I must sit here at this time and see that you echoing the contribution from the member for Vieux-Fort South when you were in Prime Minister and he made a contribution from this side and you said, you have lost your right to speak. And rejected every contribution. And there was not one lawyer on your side, not one legal expert on your side to have even stated the point.
Member for Miku South.
Mr. Speaker, the member is again misleading the House. It is impossible for the members, even on the government side, to make the statement he said. The only person that could make that statement would be the Speaker. It cannot be that members of the House are going to be given instructions to another member. So if he wants to rephrase it, Mr. Speaker, no problem.
Rephrase what exactly?
That he said that we told the member from Vieux-Fort South that he could not speak and he'd lost his right. That's the only right of the Speaker to do that in this House. Yeah. And no member of the House could make that statement.
Yeah, but what is the point of order?
Because he's misleading the House. He's suggesting that me as the Prime Minister, made that statement and made that happen. I cannot do that. It's for the Speaker to make that happen, Mr. Speaker. What statement? What? So I made it as a record of the House. I stood up and said the member
from Mico South,
yes,
I would suggest you take your seat.
No, Mr. Speaker. On this one, Mr. Speaker, how can the member suggest I can make a statement as a sitting member of the House that I don't have the authority to make, Mr. Speaker? Only the Speaker has the authority to make that statement. Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Member from Mico South.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
There's a fundamental difference between having the authority to do something and doing it. So if your point is that you don't have the authority to do it, what's the point of order? Because,
Mr. Speaker, exactly for that, in the context of Parliament, it doesn't matter if I say something, and it holds no merit in instructing what is going to be the conduct of the House. The only person in this House that is given that authority is you, Mr.
Well,
Speaker.
Member of Parliament, member from Mico South, then I am the one who has authority to ask you to take your seat.
You always have that authority.
Please proceed, Member for Castries South, please.
Always have that authority.
Thank you very much, Mr.
That's your right, Mr. Speaker. But are you not going to acknowledge the point, Mr. Speaker?
There is no point, member, so please take your seat.
Very well, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, and I think that it is good for this House when any member who speaks one can, and it makes sense that the House can adopt what is said. But, Mr. Speaker, more importantly, the Child Justice Bill that is before this House, and it's a certain aspect of it. But more importantly, Mr. Speaker, I know that coming to this House very soon will be other aspects of the Child Justice Bill, the state of the child. Because we also would like to, Mr. Speaker, the member leader of opposition is disturbing. There are other sections of this bill that will come to this House that will further enhance the Child Justice Bill. One such area is the state of the child, when we will no longer refer to children in our culture we have this section being worked on. We also have the allocations for children. We will be coming to the House with this. But more importantly, Mr. Speaker, this government has invested significantly in the rehabilitation and support of our children. The Prime Minister has provided resources.
Member Castries South, member from Mico South, I will not ask you to stop the crosstalk loud enough to distract the member. I won't ask you again. Please proceed, member for Castries South.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much. So, Mr. Speaker, there are aspects of the bill that will be coming to this House. There are also, Mr. Speaker, I do not think, I'm trying to concentrate, but the member of the opposition is being deliberate. Yeah? There are investments being made by this Prime Minister into the caring of our children. The new juvenile center speaks to this. We expect to have working drawings and the bills of quantities within this fiscal year. Also, the amount that is invested in terms of through the WIRI program, while the USAID has stopped, but the government has agreed to continue the program being run through the St. Lucia Social Development Fund to continue to support young people who are in conflict with the law. Mr. Speaker, it is not something that anyone would be proud of in this day and age to speak about incarceration of children. But we know the reality is that a lot of our children are misbehaving and are displaying certain anti-social behavior, some of our children, and we have to respond and prepare our society to adequately respond and to save our children. The prescription made in the legislation, not only to be punitive, but also to protect our children, because there are times that you need to save our children longer. And of course, if a magistrate is given that authority, they can administer that, because of course what was written in the legislation for our children would be very, very restrictive and does not allow. Over time, we can continue to revisit and update our laws. But as it stands today, we have to deal with the issue of incarceration. Very often, Mr. Speaker, the staff at the Boys Training Center are unable to keep children safe because of the nature of the Boys Training Center. And of course, we need to find elsewhere to protect them, to save them from themselves, and to protect also the staff that's there, knowing their behavior. So, Mr. Speaker, the issue of our children, like some members have said, is not one that is straightforward, and we are not ignoring it, and we are working hard to bring measures to make it a lot easier. Mr. Speaker, the issue of crime and violence, using gun violence, is not the only area of violence that we have to deal with. And too often, Mr. Speaker, as adults, we forget how we contribute to the environment of crime and violence. Mr. Speaker, I listened quite a bit to the leader of the opposition, and it reminds me of a scripture text. I think it's in James 8, James 3 verse 8, which says, "But the tongue can no man tame, it is an unruly evil, full of deadly poison." The Bible speaks to it, but the tongue can no man tame. No man can tame it. It is an unruly evil, full of deadly poison. But that's not the only memory text that speaks to the tongue. You understand? James 3, 5, 6 compare the tongue to a fire that can corrupt the body and set life on fire. Proverbs 8:21 state that death and life are in the power of the tongue. So when we speak gun violence, when we speak of some of the things happening in our society, there's a tendency to focus on children. But when the leader of the opposition speaks, he must ask himself to what extent that his tongue is contributing to an environment that is unstable. His reaction to CIP, his reaction in the news as he speaks to getting angry, and the venom coming out of his expression, wouldn't that stir some people to be angry and to take it to the next level? I'm asking the question. And James an apostle is saying that there lies such power in the tongue. So I'm saying, Mr. Speaker, whereas we are dealing with issues of gun violence, we are dealing with issue of unruly children, we are dealing with deviant behaviors, we are dealing with challenges at our families. As leaders, all of us must be aware of what we're saying, where and when, and how do our words contribute to the decadence of our society. The tongue can also uplift, the tongue can also build. I have yet to hear the member of the opposition saying, this is good for St. Lucia. I support the initiative of the Prime Minister to pay the back pay. I support the bonus given. I support this. I've yet to hear his tongue lead to affirming what is good in this country. It couldn't be that our Prime Minister has not done anything good. The country is not saying that. UWPs, like SLPs, are singing the praises and are thanking the Prime Minister for the wondrous work that he has done in his administration thus far. So I'm really concerned, and I'm asking the leader of the opposition and the members from this side, to a lesser extent, the member for Social Saltibus, that's what it is here, to find the space within the conversation to affirm what is good. Yes, you agree with me, right? To affirm what is good in this country, it will help mitigate crime and violence and deviant behaviors. Because if adults can be seen by children in terms of working together, it will also influence their behavior. You know, while I couldn't help but observe the young lady sitting on the side, our guest, you know, at one point in time, she clasped her hand. I don't know if she was praying while the contribution was being made. I told a member sitting next to me, look, the child is praying while contribution was being made. A young talent in the parliament sitting here today while the contribution was being made by the other side. She clasped her hand and she prayed. I hope she was praying, you know, for good sense to prevail. We as this government will put every effort to help our young people. We will continue to work with the young men at Bordelais through our program at the St. Lucia Social Development Fund. When they're incarcerated, we will not abandon them. We will not ignore them. We will continue to work with them. Whatever provision that is made in the law, we as the Ministry of Equity, Social Justice will not abandon our children in the prisons. We will go there and find them. We will work with them. We will find ways of training them and rehabilitating them back into society. This is the mandate of the Ministry of Equity, Social Justice and Empowerment. So of course, there's separation of power. Provision must be made in the law to take care of criminal activities. But on the social side, there is a balance because this Prime Minister is providing strength for us to deal with issue of deviant behavior and to reinstate our children back in society. Mr. Speaker, with this perspective, I have no doubt at all, that there is balance, there's good argument for us to move forward, to bring peace into our society. And what I ask is for the member, the leader of the opposition, to join and add his voice in unison with what is so good and what is working for our society, that of course all of us can benefit in the long run. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.